In the third part of tonight's class, we focused on pain management, how much attention we pay, how much pain we feel. Hope you enjoy.
Sorry. It's funny. I did think of a story, where this happened, where it was like very concrete that like there was the good and the bad. And it's funny because I actually have it like whatever, like on my dresser as a reminder. So I don't know why I didn't think of it initially, but basically quickly. So this was several years ago. My oldest kids were little. So we were going to Florida with my little kids and my parents, and it was just very, very hectic. My dad made tickets for like 5 a.m, and it was a very, very hectic morning. And I was very stressed, very overwhelmed. And then my luggage was too heavy. So I had to like take stuff out of my luggage. It was a whole ordeal. But anyway, what ended up happening is I lost my boarding pass. And my parents were like yelling at me. They're like, where could you have put it? Like, look around, blah, 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 blah. Like, it was very, very frustrating. I was very upset and just it felt like everything was going wrong. And I had no idea where my boarding pass went. So I ended up having to go. They printed a new one for me and everything, and it was fine. But then when I got to Florida, I was unpacking my suitcase and there was a boarding pass in there. So I must have like left the boarding pass in the suitcase when I was like taking stuff out. And it was actually not my boarding pass. Like they had given me, his name is like Madeline Smith or something. So I always think about Madeline Smith when I'm going through something challenging, because they had given me her boarding pass. I didn't know that at the time. So had I just had it in my hand and not accidentally put it in my suitcase, I would have had to turn around and go all the way back and get a new one and everything, like after security, because they would have seen that, my license doesn't match and everything. So I have Madeline Smith's boarding pass on my, like hanging on the mirror on my dresser to remind me that even when things are really hard and frustrating, that there's good.
That is a great story. I love it that Madeline Smith is part of your every morning makeup routine. Every morning making yourself beautiful routine is, I want to know who this Madeline Smith is, but we have a great relationship. It's wonderful to have a concrete symbol like that. It's great. And I highly advise people to create in their own way. I did something, not as dramatic, but something happened to me, whatever. I shared with my husband something I had written up in my Thank You God journal. And I'm like, I want to be able to easily access this. This is something I want, who knows, 5 years from now to be able to pull out. So I took the time and I made a new Word doc on my computer, just this thing, and I typed it up. And then I had another one that I searched in a thank you journal. Like I had to go back to my previous one to find it. And I typed it up and I took the time, and I had a very busy day. So it was sort of weird that I was so relaxedly typing and then looking for the other journal and searching through the journal for the details and then typing it all up. But it was important to me because I wanted to have it as a concrete, when I'll need this in the future, I just want to open up my computer and there it is. So it's not as dramatic as a boarding pass on my night table, but I totally echo that point. And I think what Heidi's saying is so beautiful. And somebody else could, she's saying, look at God's kindness. It was pretty simple. They just reprinted it. And nowadays I'm told you could lose your boarding passes. You just like show your phone or ID or something. I don't know. But at that time it would have been very stressful. It would have been like, and now suddenly you're going to run back and who knows how much time and who knows, miss the, in previous times, these things were much more difficult. I remember my father was sitting by the gate and he didn't have his boarding pass because someone else had it who was late, and he missed his flight because of that. So, it could have been so traumatic, and yet God said, I'll make it easy. They messed up, don't worry. I'll have you lose the ticket they messed up so you can easily get one now. Great story. And I bet, just as Heidi just remembered something she knows and is on her night table, we all have that. We've all been through it. And I believe we all probably know and remember some things like that in our life. And the advantage of having a physical memento, or in some way getting yourself to remember it, like me typing it up, is for the future events, for the next one, for the next time you're falling on your face and wondering, where is God? And say, oh, right, he's here bringing me down to bring me up. That's exactly why he's doing it. And that's an enormous key to joy. And it really helps us be always joyous, because otherwise you're only joyous in the good times. And of course, God willing, you have many, many, many good times in your life, and many times that there's plenty of obvious reason for joy. But we want to be always joyous, also in the other times. And when we realize it's all God, and he's doing it for my benefit, and there's a purpose, and this challenge is probably why I'm in this world, and I'm going to gain, and it's going to end with the gain, and all these other things, that everything I said tonight, you probably all know, but it's good to remember them. It helps us. But sometimes it's hard because we're human. And as human, when something hurts, it hurts. And everything I said, you agree with, you could have given the class yourself, but that doesn't mean that when it hurts, it doesn't hurt. So what do I do about that hurt? So what we're supposed to do about that hurt is understand that often we feel pain because we're aware of it. And the less attention we pay to it, the more we put our mind in a different space, we don't feel the same intensity of pain. It depends how good we are at putting our mind in other places. Some of us could say we don't feel pain at all. I've had many pain-free childbirths, weirdly enough. Just not through, I never take any drugs, never take anything like that. It's just through, I don't know, connecting to a higher space. And other people will say, no, it hurts, but it hurts less. It hurts less. So the more we can divert our mind away, the less we're busy processing, wallowing in feeling, experiencing, thinking over this pain. It could be there, and there's a lot of other things going on, or it could be there and that takes up all the space. And then it's excruciating. There's a famous story, I know I've told it before, of the Mozartitzer Rebbe, who was a famous composer of Hasidic melodies, a Rebbe, a great holy person, and very, very known for his musical compositions. At a certain point in his life, he was already much older at this point, he was very weak, and he needed a surgery. But the doctor said he was too weak to handle anesthesia, but he needed a surgery. So they didn't know what to do. And he said he had a solution. He said he's going to compose a Hasidic melody. And they should start the surgery when they see he's engrossed in the composition. And they literally did this. I mean, this happened in America. Like, this didn't happen 500 years ago. This was, after the Holocaust in America. And they literally did surgery on him without any anesthesia. And he didn't feel a thing. He was singing without pain throughout the surgery. We have the nigun. It's long. It's 36 stanzas because it was a long operation. And he was concentrating so deeply, he was not aware he didn't feel the pain. Now, that's a very high level of concentration. That's a very high level of inner control, of spiritual maturation that probably we don't have. But on our level, we're also not being asked to go through surgery without anesthesia. On our level, we can use the same concept. We can use the technique. The technique works. Meaning, we're talking here about happy despite the challenges. So you're going through a challenge. Me too. Lots of challenges in this world. Big challenges, smaller challenges, lots of challenges. You're upset about something, but then something positive happens and that distracts you. And during that time, you're not upset. Whatever. I mean, we can all, many window dressings on the story, but, you're upset, your kid, they don't have a school to go to this year. School's supposed to start in a week. You don't know where your kid's going. It's pulling you down. And then suddenly, unexpectedly, your sister from out of town pops in, like she surprised you with a visit. Oh my gosh, you're so happy. So did that solve the problem with your child who doesn't have a school next week? No, it's got nothing to do with it. So how are you so happy? You're so upset 5 minutes ago because of that problem. I'm not thinking about it now. It's still there. But the focus of my attention changed. I'm enjoying this unexpected visit, and that's in the background. So that happens naturally in those types of situations. But it's also a tool we can use. Sometimes it's a tool for sanity. If it's so overwhelming, sometimes challenges are so overwhelming, our fears are like tangible and they're like suffocating. Where they're stymied, we can't move from them. And when we consciously shift our focus and deal with other things, it recedes because we're just not feeding it. Didn't solve the situation at all, but it solved my emotional paralysis. It solved me not being able to function because I'm so under the situation. And that's why some people go through horrors and rebuild, and other people, a small thing completely throws them. It's not only what happens, but very often it is how much you let what happened affect you. And sometimes we hold on to memories much, much more than is healthy. Sometimes we think and we reinforce pain and we magnify pain, and then we think some more and get stuck in it and reinforce it more and magnify it more. And sometimes we just like, okay, it's there and I have to deal with it, but I don't want it to take over my emotional reality. I want to be a happy person. I want to create a happy home. I want to be happy for my spouse, happy for my children. Maybe we're all going through this together and it's on my shoulders to create the joy in what otherwise might be a very tense home. So the more I think about the issues and the problems, the more I'm not going to function, and neither is anyone else in my world. And the more I say it's there and I'm dealing with it, I'm putting my mind in happy spaces. I'm focusing on the good in my life, as we often speak about. The good's there, the other stuff is there. We have a choice. I want to focus. And if I stop thinking about it, I can tremendously lessen and maybe not even feel that pain that otherwise I would be feeling.
Ms. Turin, that's true what you're saying about focusing on the good, but usually, like if you focus on, usually you have to focus on the bad because something has to happen. You have to do something good in your life. That's great. Thank you, Hashem. Things are great. My kids are awesome, whatever. But the problem that you actually have to think about, because you need a plan for it. You gotta try to fix it or work with it. So it's not so easy just to focus just on the good.
100%. And I'm glad you raised the question, because I thought I spoke about it, but I obviously didn't say it clearly enough. It's a great point. So first of all, there's two types of pains and challenges. Some things there's nothing to do about it, or some things there's some things to do about it, and some things there's a lot. Like somebody very close to you passed away. It's an enormous pain in your heart, an enormous pain. There's nothing to do about it. It's just an enormous pain. So the more you immerse yourself in that emotion, and sometimes we do that no good reason besides there's almost a certain pleasure in the pain, if you will, or virtue in the pain. And no, it's not good. It's not virtuous. It's not pleasurable. It's hurting you. Get out. Well, shouldn't I think about this person? In discrete moments when it's beneficial, but during the day, no. Maybe at night, when your kids are sleeping and you're winding down and you want to spend a few months reflecting, beautiful. But the rest of the day, no. Then there's other types of situations, like let's say a health situation. So obviously someone has a health situation, they personally have it, or someone they're taking care of has it. So obviously they have to go to doctors and they have to follow the medical procedures, but they don't have to spend the rest of their life or day thinking about it, thinking about their current limitations, thinking about what they used to be able to do and can't do, or what they now have to do. Don't, it's there in your working reality. Do what you need to do. And the rest of the time, be focused on joyous things, be focused on your blessings. Otherwise, you'll just be feeling bad your whole day because of this health situation, which is true and which is real, but it doesn't need to take over your life unless you let it. Then there's other situations that aren't as clear cut, not like the first situation where there's nothing to do besides what's going on in your brain, or the second situation where there is what to do, but it's clear cut. You go to the doctor, you follow the procedures. And the third situation is just this open-ended, I don't know what, like we said, your child doesn't have a school and school's starting for everyone else in a week, but they don't have a school. So obviously you can't spend all day focusing on your blessings and focusing on your joy and just thinking God's going to take care of the situation himself. No, he did put you in this world and you're supposed to try, and then he might, step in and pick up the pieces and do a far better job than you're doing. But you got to make your valiant efforts. But at the same time, now this is the hard part, you want to do, not to wallow. Meaning you want to look at it like, here's a situation and I need to do. I might not know what to do. I might need to network. I might need to strategize. I might need to consult, but I don't want to wallow in the emotion. I want to just do. Imagine a surgeon who's feeling the pain of, so I think that same concept of the therapist, of the surgeon, any such metaphor That's what we want to tell ourselves about ourselves in that type 3 situation. It's not clear cut like with the health issue. It's I've got to handle it. I've got to figure it out. I don't know what I'm doing. So I do need to put time in it, but I want to detach the emotion, because that's just going to pull me down. That's just going to drain me and deplete me. So even as something I like to do that helps me in these types of situations is I could do this like 3 times a day sometimes, depending on what's going on in my life. I like to just review all my blessings. It just centers me, grounds me. Really, I review them until I say, I have such an undeservedly blessed life. And then I move on. Much happier person. That's my norm routine. Sometimes what I like to do is challenge myself to find the blessing in the challenge, to look in the hard situation and find the blessings there, which could be the improvement, could be the silver linings. I'm sure if we spoke about COVID, we could all come up with loads of silver linings to an uncomfortable situation, right? We all went through it. We all saw so many silver linings. So that's true for every situation. So sometimes, to respond to Cheer's question, if you're in a situation like type 3, where you have to deal with it, you don't even know what to do, so it takes up a lot of time, a lot of networking, a lot of consulting, a lot of trial and error, but you want the detachment, the surgeon, the therapist. You want to minimize the emotion, and a way that helps is challenging yourself to see the blessings within the challenge. Well, because of this situation, my children and I are so much closer than we would have been otherwise. Well, because of this decrease in our finances, my children are growing now to appreciate the value of things instead of being so superficial and entitled. Because of this health crisis, I'm really appreciating all the good health I've enjoyed until now and all the parts of me that are still quite healthy. And I appreciate them in a way I never appreciated them before because I don't take them for granted anymore. Whatever it is. I don't know where my kids should go to school, but hey, I now know so much about the process of getting into schools. I'm advocating for so many other people. Or this child's going through a lot of turmoil, but you know what? She's getting better. I see she's managing to control herself some of the time. She couldn't do that before. That's improvement. So everyone's a different situation, but in every situation, no matter where you're holding in the descent to go up stage, you can challenge yourself to see the good in that situation at this moment. And that will help then to have what I'm calling the detachment, the lessening of the pain, because it's very easy to wallow in pain and it doesn't do anyone, especially you, any good. All right, wow, we're a little over time. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer. We're going to stop here. To be continued. Thank you so much for joining. Please, if this was helpful for you, share the information with someone else who's not on the class, but a friend of yours that you know is going through a hard time. Share. This only helps for many, many, many people to think about these ideas and to have a more positive perspective on their life and their challenges because of them. Thank you so much for joining.